Welcome to UO Today. I'm Paul Peppis, Director of the Oregon Humanities Center. My guest today is Patrick Phillips, Interim President of the University of Oregon and a Professor of Biology. Patrick, it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It's great to be back, as they say.
So, as everyone knows, prior to your appointment as Interim President by the UO Board of Trustees on August 16th, you served as Provost. How has the transition been, and how did the role of Provost prepare you for this one?
I think it prepared me very well for a number of reasons. One is that, President Schill was very generous in including me in every discussion. Sometimes I felt a little too generous in how many meetings I was called into, but in the end, that turned out to be great training as well as great opportunity to fully understand the operations. And we'll probably talk about it in a second, but also the way that the entire university had to respond to the COVID crisis brought all the units of the campus into very close work. And so I really got to know all the vice presidents and their operations very well as provost, which wouldn't always be the case. And so the silos really got eliminated, but also just understanding where people are coming from and what their work is was great. And so I feel very fortunate that we have an amazing leadership team that's remained stable despite this transition in president, and everybody's very motivated and excited for the work that we're doing. And that makes my life not only possible, but easy at the moment. Nothing is ever easy over time, for sure.
Just to clarify for our viewers, vice presidents handle the operational side of the institution, and vice provosts, and the provost is in charge of the academic side of the institution.
So the provost is an interesting position because now actually we rename things a little bit, but the provost is provost and executive vice president. And so you're second in command to the university, but vice presidents run things like the financial operations and housing and student services, those things. Vice provosts run programs like advising, and of course, the real job of the provost is to work with the deans and to support all the academic operations, especially the faculty and staff within departments, schools, colleges.
So tell us about some of your most proudest achievements as provost. Your proudest achievements as provost.
Well, what I would say is, so I became provost in June of 1999. Everybody knows these, 1999? Boy, that's a long time ago. 2019. And so 9 months later is when COVID hit. And so the thing I'm most proud about is just how proud I am of the university as a whole. That we really held together. There was a lot of difficult times, there's no question, hard conversations, but at the end of the day, definitely many employees on campus were impacted, especially in our housing and food services. But within the provost portfolio, global education, there was none, so that was hard on a number of those employees. But all the faculty and staff in the academic units, we were all kept whole. No one was laid off. No one's salary was adjusted. And that, I got to say, was not true at most universities and colleges across the country. So, but more than that, I made the statement early on, my biggest concern as provost was that we would lose our sense of self and the sense of a community and the academy. And I think it was hard, and it's been very, very hard on people. People are quite raw through all of that, but we preserved that sense. And that's what I'm feeling right now, starting out as interim president, is just this amazing energy to kind of, let's get on being the University of Oregon moving forward. The other thing I would say is that we didn't just deal with COVID. Many faculty and staff, hundreds and hundreds actually, were very generous with their time, and I launched a series of conversations about initiatives that would be moving forward. Really started with the Environment Initiative, and there was hundreds of people that participated. Adele Amos, who's the leader of that initiative, ran workshops. I attended, I think, almost all of them just to kind of do some rah-rah stuff, and came forward with work. We've also done it in the sport and wellness area, did a lot of work around entrepreneurship, and many conversations around diversity over the years. But the most amazing one was really the Ballmer Institute, when got together with a group of faculty from our really two outstanding programs in psychology and the College of Ed, and said, hey, we can do great things here if we do them together. And it only took them about an hour to say, you know what we really need to do is address this rising crisis in children's mental and behavioral health. We brought that, this was just a year ago, we brought that idea to Steve and Connie Ballmer, and they said, yeah, this is exactly right. And then we asked them for $425 million, and they said yes. And those faculty continue. The generosity of spirit in that group is unbelievable. 25 or so faculty have built in just over the summer an entire new curriculum for a new degree, a new way of addressing this issue from a workforce standpoint. I don't know that any university, I will probably never experience this again quite like this. And I helped get the night campus started, as you know. It's really amazing and it's very gratifying.
So tell us a little bit more about the purchase of the Concordia campus and the move of the Ballmer Institute up there. How's that going?
It's going very well. It's a complex operation. So again, right away the faculty said, if we're going to address this, what we really need to do is think about diverse populations that are especially differentially impacted in the mental health crisis. And you know, Eugene is a great city, but it's not the most diverse place, and we decided if we're going to make an impact in Oregon, centering things in Portland would make the most sense. Coincidentally, Concordia University had shut down their operations, and so this basically once-in-a-generation opportunity to obtain that campus. So the Ballmers were supportive of that idea. Some of the facilities on that campus are world-class and some are a little older, but it also provides us an opportunity to move the rest of our Portland operations to what's more of a traditional campus feel. There's pluses and minuses to that. So we are working on that, working with planning architects. The faculty had a chance at the end of the last academic year to talk about what they were looking for. So lots of work going on, but this is not the greatest construction market still. And so we're working forward with getting the renovation plans and all that working.
Is there anybody working there? I mean, and there are faculty, any programs that are operational
there?
There
Are no faculty. So the Ballmer Institute has probably about 5 or 6 employees now. They're based out of the White Stag building downtown, so they have offices there. We have a couple of folks based on the campus there, on the Concordia site. But we won't be opening our first courses and our first programs until basically a year from now. So that's our target. It's looking like logistically not everything will be able to start at the same time because some of the specialty programs we have, especially College of Design programs that have a lot of intense fabrication and maker spaces and those kinds of things. We want to make sure that we do that right and not rush it, and so that will take a little more time for planning and construction. And
eventually the Old Town location is going to be sold? Is that the concept, or are the other programs?
I think it's complex to know exactly what's going to happen. You may have heard Portland is undergoing some changes over the last couple of years. So what that real estate market looks like, I think we have experts that are helping to advise us and think about it. There's a variety of options for sure. So nothing to say at the moment, but we hope to work that out over this coming year.
So you mentioned the night campus for accelerating scientific impact. We've begun phase 2, so give us an update on phase 2 of the night campus.
Yeah, so phase 2 is underway. Bob Goldberg, who is now old hat as the executive director of the night campus. We have, I think, about 13 or 14 faculty, just outstanding. We have 3 of the young faculty won very prestigious NIH awards over the last year. They're doing wonderfully. So the next phase is to build another building. It'll be on the parking lot that's right along the research avenue there that extends out of Agate. Those plans are moving forward. There's a design phase, and we're going through the campus planning process to understand exactly how that's going to work. But I hope that we'll be breaking ground, I actually don't know the exact schedule, but certainly we'll be finalizing our plans in the new year.
So let's talk about your aspirations for this coming year.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have this title interim, and so it's a balance of factors here, right? So I need to be respectful of the transition, but I've been doing this work and involved in all of it, and so there's this tremendous sense, and my direct charge from the Board of Trustees, to not lose momentum. So it's not a holding pattern, it's a moving forward. And so different projects like the initiatives are moving forward, and the faculty have made recommendations to me as a provost, and now Janet Woodruff-Borden, who's taken over. And again, it's kind of like President Schill and I had this relationship. Janet and I had this very close working relationship, so she knows everything that's going on in the provost's office, and so we haven't really missed a beat on those things. So really looking at institutionalizing the initiatives. We'll be doing the shared governance parts of that, especially bringing things. We've been working with the Senate leadership about how to bring the new academic programs through the Senate and to make sure that all the faculty know what's going on. And again, they're just amazing energy from the faculty leadership of each of those initiatives. We've had this campus climate survey that finalized at the end of this year. We're looking at that. I'm dedicated to understanding what actions we can take immediately, as well as setting up a long-term process for addressing the climate concerns that have arisen. We have other things about student success. One of President Schill's priorities was student success. We've did great, really raised our graduation rates. We're really thinking about how to expand what that sense is. My personal feeling is that we need to be thinking about the whole student, and their whole life. That's what we're called to do, directly by our students and their families, as well as I think more and more the world is seeing universities as maybe not doing that as well. So that's multiple components. We have to think about mental health of students, just like with the Ballmer Institute. We have our own concerns that we need to be addressing. We need to continue on with academic success and the support of those students. We have Tyson Hall, that program still needs to, it opened during COVID. It's hard to remember that, but really building the culture of integrated student success. And then thinking more and more about careers and how we're launching that, and how we can incorporate that thinking into the coursework that we do. It's something that we've been emphasizing is that, and this is a great thing for the Humanities Center, for instance, is we know the critical skills, the writing, being able to speak, all of those things are actually the hallmarks of what long-term career success is. We need to not necessarily do those things differently, but make sure that students are aware of how they're building those skills and then can articulate those on their resumes and other things. But there's also just direct support for students. Partially the increasing costs of student tuition it's a national, there's nobody in the university system that isn't seeing the national narrative about are universities worth it. We are definitely worth it, and every statistic shows that that's true. But just making that very clear and tangible to students, I think, is going to be important for the long-term success of the university. So that's not an interim activity. That's the rest of our lives together activity.
So one of the concerns that President Schill had and that you have is diversity on campus. And first, let's talk a little bit about the UO's collaboration with the Native American Advisory Council.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet with them as president just a few weeks ago. It was a great conversation. With that council, and I have other advisory councils, the thing that I want to make sure that we're doing is not being performative, kind of reporting on what we're doing, but I take the word advisory seriously. I think one of the things that I personally learned over the last 4 years in particular is to really respect people's lived experience and to listen carefully about what they're saying. They are speaking the truth to me, and I definitely don't have the same experiences. With the Native American Advisory Council, we are very fortunate. I don't think people recognize that we have the leaders from the tribes coming to the university telling us what they need, what they think, and how we can be supporting their students. So I brought some pretty substantive issues. I think you'll be hearing about those over the next month, what our response is going to be. I think it's something that we can be proud of. There's just so much work to be done, obviously, and our commitment as an institution, I think, just continues to grow. And I hear it from all of our faculty and students every day that they want us to do more, they want us to be better, and that's my personal commitment as well.
So we've had a very good record hiring faculty of color. We've had a not very good record retaining faculty of color. So how are you thinking about that? How is that? I mean, it seems like that's a problem that we've wrestled with for a long time. Where are you on that question?
Well, that's the issue. As a matter of fact, I'm just meeting tomorrow, I think, with our Presidential Diversity Advisory Council. And that's a conversation that even as provost, I was trying to drive with them. We are fortunate that with Vice President Yvette Alex-Asenso and her units, Charlotte Motes-Gallagher, and also Gerard Sandoval, who's now Vice President of the Senate, we really been digging in on what those folks have called their active retention. And so we've done a lot of interviews of existing faculty, what they see their challenges are. I'll give two examples, some that are well known to people and some that I think are not as well known. The well-known one is service and unacknowledged service load. So if you're a black faculty member, black students will find you and ask you how you do what you do and what they should be doing. That doesn't happen with white faculty as much. You just have kind of a normal, office hours. Day one, well, I think it was literally the first week as provost, I went to the faculty women of color and they said, this is our #1 issue. We've been talking about this for years. You're not doing anything about it. And I said, okay, so I started talking about it. We've been working with the Senate leadership. There was a whole task force on that. They made recommendations, and now the provost office is moving forward with those recommendations. We'll continue to start addressing that. Another less known example is that we view Eugene as a very welcoming, open place. It is also not a diverse place. And one of the challenges we hear from many of the faculty who are departing is that their families actually are just not happy here. And whatever an adult faculty member who's made it through probably incredible challenges themselves and now have landed here, they don't necessarily want to see that for their children. So this is not a problem that's solvable by the University of Oregon. We could do our work perfectly, and what happens in the school could be different. So I think that we have a role as citizens of the community, as the most important organization in the community, to start addressing these issues more at the level of the whole city, through the mayor's office, those kinds of things. That's a path forward that we don't totally know what that's going to look like, but I'm very committed to bringing that message because I hear it from the faculty directly.
So talk to us about the impacts of the World Athletic Championships that were here in July.
So it's a great moment. Obviously, there was a lot of feelings about the changes in Hayward Field. There's no question about that. That was clear. But I'll tell you, people are just blown away. So that was terrific. It turned out to be a great event. Coming out of COVID, it was a challenge. It obviously got delayed a whole year. As provost, I got to say, that was maybe the only good part of COVID. It allowed me to work with the folks running the championships to make sure that our academic programs were highlighted and integrated even more than I think they had been because this planning was going on before I started over. So for instance, one of our proudest stories is that the opening credits for the championships, that was an open competition, and that competition was won by one of our students in the School of Journalism and Communication. So that was seen by everybody, every single event. And I don't mean just a few people. 18 million people in the United States watched the championships, and we were careful that the University of Oregon logo and things were prominently displayed. It was a great advertisement for the state of Oregon. It was a great advertisement for Eugene and the University of Oregon. But more than that, we are a university that wants to be internationally relevant, and we are, but we can do better. 1 billion people across the world watch the World Championships. As you probably know, track and field is more popular off our shores than on our shores even. And then I just think we just have to be proud that this is the first time that the World Championships ever been hosted in the United States. And it was Eugene, Oregon, this little town on the West Coast that pulled it off. And people were just effusive and how happy they were, and the athletes, the visitors. So we're just very proud of how it came together. It was dicey situation. It was a high stakes kind of thing, but in the end, I'm so happy that we did it.
So, in addition to being a university administrator, you are a researcher. You are a biologist. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about your research, and then tell us, have you been able to do any of it?
So yes, remarkably through all of this, and it's kind of a learned activity because I've been doing lots of different things, as you know, over the last 10 years or so. So the work that we do, my background is actually in population genetics. So I'm interested in how genetic variation works within populations, how it changes over time, especially how complex organisms like you and I are put together. You know, you and I look about as similar as any two faculty on campus, but still we're quite different, right? And so what causes that? A lot of that is genetically based. So that's been my field of interest. I started working on this very small little nematode worm called C. elegans, which is a model system that's studied by thousands of people. It's one of the best understood organisms. When I started doing that work, some discoveries were made for some mutations that made the worms live about 3 to 10 times longer. So we started looking at that from a natural variation point of view. So we've been very generously funded by the National Institutes of Aging to be part of large projects looking for drugs that make worms live longer, with the thought that, that those things can make us live healthier, longer lives. So we've been doing more and more of that kind of work, which is a path that I never anticipated when I started as a graduate student, whenever that was 35 years ago. So I've been very fortunate that you know, our lab is one of the best funded on campus, and because of that, I've been able to hire professional staff in particular that have been with me. Some people have been with me 15 years. So even as I've done these other jobs, the kind of core activities of the staff, the environment, we have about 14 people, not including undergrads, working in the lab right now. A couple graduate students, a couple postdocs, but a lot of research technicians and assistants. So it's still a great community. They do their stuff. I'm meeting with them every week. When I became provost, I said, hey, if we're going to do this, you have to like really take the reins and get it going. And we did. So we have a lot of 8 a.m. meetings and a lot of 5 p.m. meetings is the way that I make it happen. I meet on the weekends with people when we're trying to finalize papers. So it's still working. I don't think someone coming to this institution from the outside could set up a lab like this, but it's the fact that I've been here for several decades and we just know what we're doing. So, but in the end, it all comes down to the students and the research staff and their love for what they do and their support for doing great research.
So you just said you've been here for several decades, over 20 years you've been here. What's kept you here? Many of your colleagues over those 20 plus years have moved on.
Yeah. You know, I've been dedicated to, I love Oregon, the state. I moved here when I was 17 years old. I was from Southern California. This is kind of a, I don't know, I was going to say ugly ducking, fish out of water. I don't know what. But when I moved to Oregon, the moisture nourished my soul as much as my skin. And so I've always been dedicated to Oregon. I think I've loved working with my colleagues in the Department of Biology. I've been impressed by kind of the innovative approaches that we take through our research institutes and being able to work across fields. But it was really my time getting the night campus started where I started going around the state and seeing what the state as a whole needs. And quite frankly, it needs a lot. And so I've dedicated my efforts to that. It's not always easy, but this is a place that is of a perfect, it's kind of this Goldilocks scale. We're never big enough to get everything that we want, but we're not so small that we can't do things. But individuals can make a huge impact on this campus. And if you bring energy, if you bring vision, you can make things happen. But it does take positive engagement. And the other thing is, it always takes teamwork. There's not enough of anybody here to make something work. So you have to be very creative in the kind of networks and groups that you bring together. And I've just always been energized by that kind of we try harder attitude here. And so that's why I'm here, and I've been very, very happy. We were talking earlier, you know, raised my kids in Eugene. They've really had great experiences here. So I want to build that for everybody and make this an incredibly welcoming, inclusive, supportive environment. I think that's what we owe everybody in this institution. It's what we owe Eugene. It's what we owe in the state. That takes work. It doesn't happen by accident, and so I'm very happy about that.
So we just have a couple of minutes left, Patrick. This will probably be my last question. So as you know, I've been interviewing Mike Schill every year at the beginning of the year. It's always the first interview that we do. And my question at the end of all those interviews is the same one I'm going to ask you now. Do you have any book or books that you have recently read that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I recently was in McMorran when the President Schill was moving out. His library is almost insanely massive, so he's constantly reading. Mine is less so, I would say. Unfortunately, it's kind of boring. I've been reading, you know, organizational theory books and things like that. Mm-hmm. My favorite recent one is Good to Great. I think it's really resonates with a lot of things that I think the University of Oregon could be doing and strives to do in terms of innovation. It's not necessarily a quantitative book. I like to cook, and so there's this kind of magazine book called Arts Culinaire, which is this super hoity-toity chef's thing. I just like to look through it and say, ooh, I wish I had time to make those dishes. So for me, that's a lot of what I do in my relaxation time is kind of think about things that I could be doing. So
yes, I'm familiar with that syndrome.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Patrick Phillips, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for doing the job that you're doing. I expect I won't be interviewing you a year from now, but you never know.
You just never know what's going to happen in this crazy world of ours. So thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for bringing the university community to this audience for now almost a decade. It's really a valuable service. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thanks so much. I've been speaking with Patrick Phillips, the interim president of the University of Oregon. Thanks everybody for watching.